Righty ho, good afternoon. It's me again. Here we are again. Nick Blanchard, head honcho at Zoco, put one of the Zoco members fairly and fiercely under my sharp spotlight to find out all about her and her business. Okay. So we have Claire Willsher. So Claire, what do I know about Claire Willsher? I don't know a lot about Claire Willsher, but I do know she is married to a man in the military. So until very recently, she moved around a lot. And finally, I believe he's been posted somewhere permanently for a few years, which means that Claire can come and join Zuko. So, so fabulous. I know you're in Kingston. And I also know that you've just had a significant birthday, okay? Other than that, Claire, I don't think I know much about you. I know what your dining room looks like. I've seen your dining room on camera, but other than that, I'm not sure I know much about you. So, it's lovely. It's really lovely, and perhaps we get to know a lot more about you this afternoon. So let me pin you and me. I'm recording. Pin you, and pin me. And that's it. Okay, so good. On my screen, it's just you and me, Claire. So, Claire, lovely to see you. Thank you for joining me. Really lovely to see you. So, right, you sent me the question, which is great. Makes my life so much easier. First up, why did you create Dr. Me?
Well, it's a bit of a long story, really, but I'll try and keep it fairly short. So, as you've already said, my husband's in the military. We move around every couple of years. I wouldn't quite say he's permanently posted here, but permanently for the time being. I think nothing's ever quite set in stone, being married to someone in the military. But I set up Dr. Me because we move around an awful lot. I've been a PE teacher for 16 years. I've always loved sport. I've always loved the effect of moving my body, and I love being able to inspire children to enjoy sport and take it with them into later life. But I found it quite tricky after moving schools time and time and time again to actually just keep building that rapport with the children and building the rapport with the staff. So a couple of years ago, I decided to transition from teacher to business owner, and I set up my company, Dr. Me. There's another little side to this, and that when I was actually at university studying sports science, I got quite poorly with glandular fever, and then that sort of evolved into ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome. So I went from being super sporty, first team hockey, club captain, quite high level hockey, to not being able to walk up the stairs at night time to go to bed because I didn't have the energy, and even having a conversation left me exhausted. So I went from being really, really active, really sporty, to just being hugely debilitated and quite poorly for a time. And so I know what it feels like to be not in control of your energy levels for whatever reason. I know what it feels like not to be healthy, but I'm very fortunate in that I have recovered, and I just celebrate the fact that I am now healthy and that I can go out and go walking and running and just enjoy life that much more these days.
And so you say sports. I mean, you mentioned hockey. So you used to play hockey and you're a runner, yeah?
I'm a runner now. Yeah, I think sport changes with whatever phase of your life you're in. Yeah, I was quite a serious hockey player for a long time. And then when I got poorly, I didn't want to go back to it. So actually, my now husband taught me how to play squash, and I'd never played squash before. And that was brilliant because I had nothing to compare it to after I'd been poorly. And then we had children, or we got married, had children, and playing hockey. Actually, we were living out in Germany, so it just wasn't very conducive to family life. And so I just started running, and I love it. I love the fact you can get outside, you're in the outdoors, you're breathing in the fresh air, you're out in nature, and you can do it, get it done, and come back again. But then saying that, various places we live, we mountain walk. So we were up in North Yorkshire before here. We used to do a lot of walking. Where we live, if it's got a squash court, we'll play squash again. So, yeah, I'm one of these people. I love to ski. Haven't been able to ski for a few years, which is really annoying. So I'll give anything a go, but I do love anything outside, definitely.
So I know, as I said, I mean, I said before, my father was a county running long distance champion, and I've never been a runner. I was the wrong shape for runner, but running a business, I got into running sort of 10 years ago, and obviously it helps with your endorphins. It helps with my mood. I mean, running a business was very stressful, and I found running helped me enormously. And I really hope to see you at the park run in Bushy Park. You can see me in full flow, and I can, get you around 5 kilometers.
I was actually thinking of you yesterday as I ran through Bushy Park, Nick. So,
Yeah, it's my spiritual.
whether I'd bump into you,
It's
but
my
I didn't.
spiritual home, I tell you, absolutely. I cannot wait. End of June, we think the park run. And with Christmas Day, we have 2,000 people running.
Wow, go.
2,000. So come join us on Christmas Day, every Christmas Day at 9 a.m. So
Gosh.
so Dr. Me. So yeah. So what does DRME stand for?
Well, I'm not a doctor, but I try and encourage other people to become their own doctor, because Dr. Me is an acronym for diet, resilience, mindset, and exercise. So I help people prioritize their health and get them addressing their health from a multi-pronged approach. Instead of just telling them this is what you should be eating or this is how you should be exercising, I incorporate so much more than that. So we look at how people sleep, we look at how people hydrate themselves, we look at how they view themselves, which is really important, their mindset. We look at how they view the world, how positive they are, as well as touching on sort of movement and what they're consuming in terms of eating. So that's very important, but it's not the be all and end all. So my philosophy is to try and prevent ill health rather than have to cure it.
I mean, it's ridiculous to think that the body, the whole thing is not a holistic approach. You have to look at everything, inside and out. Absolutely.
It's all so interconnected. It's incredible. And I think sort of my learning journey over the last few years has just really intensified that, in that there are so many studies to show that if you eat a Mediterranean diet, for instance, there was a trial done called the SMILES trial in Australia, and I think it was 2017, and they proved that if you eat a Mediterranean diet, you can stop and reverse the effects of anxiety and depression just by what you eat. And so changing your diet can improve your mood. And it's just remarkable that you've got all this connection between your gut and your brain. I find it fascinating, and I try and pass that on to all my clients.
Yeah, I mean, what if what you eat is either killing you or curing you, isn't it? Basically.
Definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so how has the business changed since? I mean, when was Dr. Me set up, and how has the business changed since it started?
Well, it was set up in 2019 after leaving a school in down in Kent, actually, sorry. So we moved from Kent to North Yorkshire, and I'd set up a health week in the school that I was working in Kent. And as I left the school, the head teacher gave me a book called the Business Startup Workbook. And she said, Claire, you've got to package this up. This idea of a health week is amazing. Schools will bite your right hand off to have it. So I looked and I thought, oh gosh, I've been a teacher, I'm not an entrepreneur, I don't know the first thing about business. And I just thought to myself, well, just give it a go. What's the worst case scenario? It doesn't work, and then next time we move, I can re-identify as a teacher again. So that was the birth of Dr. Me. How has it changed? Well, I started off, therefore, by going into schools and delivering workshops, because that was the environment that I was familiar with, and very quickly realized that actually what I was given, all the information that I was giving to an 11-year-old boy or girl was very relevant to a business owner. So sort of started going into corporations and delivering very similar, very interactive, very fun workshops, getting corporates to focus on their health, because if they're healthier, they work harder and they've got more energy, and therefore they get more money for their businesses. So I was doing workshops in schools, workshops in corporations, and then we were due to move out to Washington, DC. And I was like, how am I going to do these workshops from over in America? This was obviously pre-COVID, everyone knowing how to use Zoom. And so I requalified as a health coach. And I thought, well, at least with being a health coach, I can do that one-on-one with people, and I can do that from anywhere in the world. So requalified, and I've just added that as another string to my bow. I've had various workshops over the last couple of years, not so many during lockdown, but I've done a few via Zoom, and I've got a few bookings in the upcoming future. But I just absolutely love the health coaching element, because that sort of draws in all of my knowledge and allows me to really input and get really deep with individuals and make sure that the habits that they're interjecting into their lives are really suited to their life, and making sure that it's possible for them to carry out that habit change, because then they're much more likely to continue it.
Exactly. I mean, you mentioned obviously, I mean, the D for diet. It's obviously it's a big part of all our lives, and you don't, I mean, you look at what your client might eat in an average day, an average week, and it's not about lecturing or about explaining what's good, what's not so good, and what they should be replacing A with B possibly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really encourage I certainly don't. I don't encourage my clients to go on a diet, because actually diets are very restrictive, and I don't like restricting. We were having a conversation before about lemon drizzle cake, and saying, I eat cake, I drink wine, but I don't eat cake every day and I don't drink wine every day. It's about everything in moderation and keeping those things for sort of special treats or for the weekend or whatever it might be. And instead, I try and encourage people to make habit changes. So instead of restricting, finding tasty alternatives that they prepare themselves, that they know exactly what they are feeding themselves, rather than relying on pre-made food that might have additives and preservatives and lots of chemicals, which our bodies are having to deal with. And our bodies just aren't designed to process lots of chemicals. So if you cook, I try and get my clients to cook from scratch, because then they know what they're having.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I know that my diet has changed dramatically in the last year or so, and it's just about making the choices. I'm at work, and sometimes chips. I mean, chips are weird things, aren't they? Chips are kind of lost calories, really. We all think we love them, but do we really? And it was garlic bread chips and some kind of pasta. I thought, oh no, too many carbs there. So I didn't have the garlic bread, didn't have the chips. It just had the pasta. It was delicious. But it's about making choices.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, your next question, very interesting. Day to day, what do you do, Claire?
Well, day to day, I have clients. So we meet on Zoom and we discuss where they're at and where they'd like to be, and give them some sort of information and science behind the recommendations that I make. So that's one element of my day. Another part of my day is doing things like networking and getting my name known, because it's quite hard when you move around quite a lot, in terms of you build up a network of people locally and then you move on. So it's just trying to build up those relationships, because I think people buy from people, and that's being said an awful lot at the moment. And it's just getting to know people and building those relationships and building that know, like, and trust. So I do quite a bit of networking. I prioritize my health. So I get outside every day, do some form of exercise, run every other day, and then walk or do a HIIT or something. Other than that, it just depends where I'm at. I'm in the process of planning a group coaching program at the moment, so I'm busy doing that. So I've got a talk that I'm giving tomorrow to a local group. So it's just planning and trying to grow the business, really.
I mean, leading on from earlier on, we had, so your kind of ideal client referral. I mean, it sounds like it's just, I mean, anybody who's something's not quite right in their life and they need a bit of help and advice. Yeah.
Yeah, so I try and go at it from an energy perspective, because I obviously know what it feels like not to have the right
Yes.
energy. And people can be depleted of energy because they've got small children and their priorities are totally different and they're sleep deprived, or they might have some sort of illness in which depletes them of energy. Or it might simply just be that it's somebody trying to cope with lockdown, trying to cope with just a change in their life. It might be that they're getting older and then they haven't got as much energy as they used to have, or that they have an injury so they can't go out and do the form of exercise that they used to. So for whatever reason people are depleted of energy, it still comes back to the diet, the resilience, the mindset, and the exercise. So I just try and help people get more energy in their lives and just get a bit more sparkle back, because I think quite often people just find that they get on a treadmill of life and go from one day to the next without giving life too much thought, and all of a sudden we blink and we reach a significant birthday and we think, oh well, there's more to life than this. Let's interject some energy, let's interject some sort of, I don't know, just zing back into our lives. So yeah, I hope.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you mentioned ME. What was the biggest contributing factor to? I mean, your ME. I mean, I know someone else who has ME, and she can't sleep 2 or 3 hours every afternoon, and it's a different level. But I mean, what was the biggest thing that helped you with your ME?
I think probably my sheer determination.
Right.
I tried lots of things. I saw lots of health consultants. I really did focus on what I was eating. Mm-hmm. So I was living in a student house with people who were eating pot noodles. And I learned to listen to my body. So I slept in the afternoon when I needed to sleep. Mm-hmm. I said no to things when I just didn't have the energy. I prioritized. I was in my 3rd year of university when I got diagnosed. So I was mid-dissertation and all of those fun things. So I just had to really hone in with my energy on those things that really, really, really needed my attention. I think the hardest thing for me was to give up hockey and to say I couldn't do that anymore. That was tough. But yeah, I just learned to listen to my body, try various things, and was very determined that I wasn't going to be bedbound for the next 10 years, which is some of the stories that I was hearing at the time.
And would you be happy to be introduced to anybody we might know with ME who's struggling?
Absolutely. And I think long COVID ties in. I had a chat with somebody the other day in Cyprus who's currently suffering from long COVID, and the symptoms are so similar. And it's just so debilitating, because from the outside, you look fine. I can remember walking down the street and having not seen somebody for a little while outside her house. She's like, oh, Claire, you look amazing. And I was like, oh, if only you knew that actually this 400 meters walk into town is going to make me need to sit down, and be completely depleted of energy. But it wasn't somebody that I knew that well and didn't want to go into that conversation with. And so it's a tough illness. It really is. And it's very different for each individual as well, different people. Actually, one of my clients has got ME currently, and her symptoms are different to the ones that I had. And so it's very unique. I mean, it's not forever.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I find it astonishing that people don't connect how they feel with what they eat. I mean, it's still nowadays people still don't connect. I mean, it's the energy, it's the petrol we put in our car, and
Absolutely.
I mean, my diet. I mean, I'm not any kind of soapbox, okay, but I've never ever smoked. I mean, the thought of lighting a cigarette and smoking was just never going to happen. I don't drink. I never drank alcohol or smoke or anything like that. But it's what you put in your body. So if you feel dreadful, you feel tired, you feel achy, you feel no energy, you have a sugar crash in the afternoon, you sleep every afternoon, you need to check, exactly what you're doing to your body. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer why. I love your question. I should have asked you first of all, but why did you join Zoco, and what impact has it had on Dr. Me?
Well, I joined Zoco through, as I said, I moved to Kingston. Well, I didn't say actually, I moved to Kingston in the last summer, knowing that I needed to get into some local networking groups. I met Jo Robbins through the Chamber of Commerce, actually. So met with Jo, and then she had done an interview with you on her Facebook group, I think. So I watched the interview and I loved your energy. There's just, you just ignite a room, and I've never actually met you, but even on Zoom, I feel your energy coming through. And that's what I love about it. I think the group is so collaborative, it's so supportive. People are really quite interested in what you do, which it's not just a going in and selling, it's a going in and making friends and getting to know people for who they are. And I really get that sense from Zoco. So
Good. And you're Kingston. So our first meeting, I hope you penciled in the date in. You're not far
it's
away.
in my diary. Yeah.
Wednesday, Tuesday, the 30th of June at 10 till 12 at Hampton Wick Royal Cricket Club, a mere stone's throw from where you are in Kingston, just over the bridge.
Say, I even think I know where that is. And for somebody fairly new to an area that's been in lockdown for the last long time, I feel quite proud of that.
lots of free car parkings. They're really, really good.
Might even cycle, Nick.
Of course. We should walk. Absolutely, yeah. I could walk. It's through Bushy Park. It's fantastic. Well, let's bring everybody back into the room. So let's bring everybody back in. So welcome back again, folks. So that's wonderful. So does anybody have any questions for the lovely Claire? Rebecca's hand up. Rebecca, what would you like to ask Claire?
Yes, Kat, that's great. It's really interesting hearing everything you told us. I'm just curious because I have got a neighbour who has got an injury, and she's a lot younger than me, but if you saw her walking in the street, you'd think she was about 80 years old. And I'm trying to sort of help her, and I'd really love to. Do you think you could help her? She's got a sort of, she's got so many problems at the moment. She's quite young, but would it be something that she's eating that could be, she would need to change? Or
I think having an injury is quite a whole body experience. So instead of having sort of like a torn calf or whatever reason you get an injury, you get it. But quite often there's another underlying factor. So I think it goes hand in hand with how you're fueling your body. So it might be that there's a depletion in some sort of vital vitamin or mineral or something along those lines. It might be that she's not sleeping enough, because what happens to your body when you sleep, it's the cleaning and sort of the recovery process of our body, and it's when most of the healing actually happens within us. So it might be that she's sleep deprived. It might be that she's not quite sure in which direction she's going in life, or she's confused, or she's finding life quite tough. And so that sort of not being in the best mindset is coming out in another form. Or it might be that she's exercising, either she's not exercising enough, or that the way she's exercising might be slightly wrong. So if she's walking, it might be that she's walking in the wrong shoes, or she's carrying too heavy a load or something. So I think without meeting the person, it's very hard to say. I wouldn't be able to cure her injury in terms of, I'm not a physio, but there would be lots of things that I could do to help her recover from the injury, because it's not just the work you do on the injury, it's the work that you do from the whole body perspective. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And would you do you give like an introductory chat with people?
Yeah. So I do a free half-hour chat with anybody who's interested, just to see whether we're sort of a right match, and then I can offer a range of different programs. Yeah, certainly.
I'm very interested. If I can ask about the resilience. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, you're obviously a very positive person. I mean, do you have any methods? What's your, you said nature, and I found that, I mean, getting out in nature certainly helped me enormously. I get out every day in the park. But I mean, what are the tricks do you have? Because I have found it's interesting. I ran a business for a long time. And if you get your mind set right, you know, whatever the problems are, it's a breeze, you can handle it. If the mind is not right, the tiny thing knocks you off kilter. So, I mean, when you say resilient, so talk to me a bit more about resilience.
So I called that section resilience because when I was planning Dr. Me or formulating Dr. Me, I looked at how I'd done the health weeks and what information I put in these weeks to the children back in the school in Kent. And it was very clear that I had a diet or what people eat section. It was very clear I had an exercise section. It was very clear I had sort of like a mental health mind section. But then I had everything else sort of section, and resilience was a bit of a buzzword. It fitted in nicely with the Dr. Me acronym, and it incorporates so many different things. So I normally talk to people about sleep with resilience, because sleep, in fact, we've been designed to sleep a third of our lives, and it's also one of those things that people don't value. So if we sleep well, we lose weight quicker, we are able to exercise better and for longer, we are capable of having a much more positive outlook on life, and our emotions are a lot more stable rather than being up and down when we're sleep deprived. So for me, I link resilience to sleep, but there's so many different ways of being resilient. As you say, it's about building all these things of getting out in nature, of being positive, of searching or surrounding yourself with positive people, controlling the controllables. So instead of putting all your time and energy into things that you've got no power over, it's putting them into things that you do have the control over. So there are so many different tips and techniques, and depending on who you are and where you're at in life depends on what works for you. But being kind, self-care.
Yeah, well, I mean, two things come to mind. I mean, I'm very lucky. I've got a very, very positive mother. So I get that from my mum. My mum is incredible. She's absolutely completely glass half full all the time. Okay. She's 86, and you know, and I'm very, very lucky. I'm very, very lucky. But again, the other great question I heard the other day was, the past is a great place to visit. You just don't want to live there, do you? Because the past sort of said, you know, you overthink stuff. You know, the past is gone. So, and this will come back to mental resilience. Absolutely. I think Alex had a question. Alex, did you have a question, Alex?
Well, it was a question, but I think you might have touched on it. I was just saying that I was going to say that I went on your 4-week workshop, Claire, which was really, really, really useful to me at the right time. And I was just going to ask how you work with people, but I'm sure you can talk about that. But if I just talk about the workshop, I found the mindset section. You were talking about resilience, Nick, and I found the mindset part really useful for me. Maybe it was just the particular time, talking about influences in your life and focusing on the positives and all that sort of thing. So that part of Claire's 4-week workshop course was really, really helpful to me. I found that workshop really useful, and I think you can springboard into other things. It was enough for me, but I think you can springboard into other things. So it was really sort of just to say the workshop's fantastic, and just the other ways that perhaps you work with people. I think you touched on having a quick call with someone, but I think you do one-to-one coaching and other things as well.
Yeah, so I do a sort of baseline 4-week pre-recorded course, which Alex is talking about here, which each week we focus on something different. So it's diet the first week, resilience, and mindset, then exercise. That's sort of like an introductory course to Dr. Me. And then the next offering is the group coaching workshop. So I'm just in the throes of designing this, which is going to launch the end of May, and that's going to be a maximum of 6 people, because I want to be able to get personal with each person, and again, that's going to be 1-hour sessions each week with me and with the other candidates, and just with 6 other people. So I'm keeping it small, I'm keeping it intimate, so that we can make sure that we're getting the right habits changed for the right people's lifestyles. And then obviously I do a one-to-one coaching as well, where we do an hour a week via Zoom, and then you've got constant access to me throughout the week as well via WhatsApp. So I have clients message me and say, oh, help, I'm having an awful day, this has happened, or flip that round. And sometimes I get clients message me and say, I've just taken your advice and I've bought myself a brand new car, here's me in my new Mini, I've just done it. And so it's a sort of just a helping hand for as and when they need me. So yeah, 3 basic offerings, which
they're packed.
Yeah. Sorry, Alex.
No, I was going to say they're packed full of really useful hints and tips, and I won't give it away, but Claire suggested a particular book. I read that book and I've recommended it to an awful lot of people, and it really is quite powerful. But I think you might have to go to her workshop before she tells you what that book is. But yeah, she gives away an awful lot of stuff, and I was very impressed, and it was a good 4-week course. So I think on the right path.
Yeah, I think in some ways, Alex and I mean, I've been on a bit of a journey the last year or so. I mean, I know Alex has as well. And we're looking at things in a different way, aren't we? We're looking at, we're just looking at life differently, looking at ourselves differently, looking at our past differently, looking at our future differently. So it's been really interesting. As I said, I meditate every day. I make sure I drink enough water. I never used to drink water. never drunk enough water. Now I drink lots of water every day, and it has helped. And I said I
I
haven't.
would, but I don't have a bottle like that.
Oh, don't you? Okay, well, we'll have to sort
Nor
that
do
out.
I, Alex. Nor do I.
I just have a glass.
For special people only, okay? But we'll sort that out. Don't worry, okay? But yeah, it all helps. I lost over 3 stone, and the meditation every day really helps.
That's incredible.
So it
Well done, Nick.
really does help. So any closing words, Claire, before I wrap up?
I tell people that we've got one body and one life, and we need to live it and we need to love it.
I love that. I've not heard that before, but I love that. Absolutely. You hear that, Tim? One body, one life. Love it. Live it. Okay. Just imagine what bowler you could be if you were in slightly better shape. Frightening.
I think we need to end there, don't we, Nick?
Right, I will end the recording. Thank you so much, Claire. That was wonderful. Thank you. He's fine.
Well done, Claire.
Thank you so much.